Earlier that night. A highway. A bridge across a lake. The waning moon hung in the cold night sky over Bradley Lake. Flickering, neglected streetlights struggled to illuminate a narrow road that snaked around the lake's perimeter, leading into an abandoned warehouse. The dark and gloomy atmosphere clashed sharply against a clown shoes-colored motorcycle currently revving its way down the road while blaring the most unbearable country music to grace mortal ears. Philip gripped onto Owen's back for dear life as he swerved a motorbike around with reckless abandon. He had half a mind to just jump off and walk the rest of the way. Everything felt miserable. It was cold, the music was too loud, and the motorcycle was such a hideous shade of orange that it hurt to look at. God. The universe seemed to take pity on him as the motorbike mercifully swerved into a warehouse parking lot and slowed to a stop. Philip leapt off the bike before Owen could even reposition the kickstand and reveled in his newfound appreciation for solid ground. I am never getting into a vehicle with you again. Oh, come on, it wasn't that bad. The drive here was nice and relaxing at least. Philip jabbed a finger at the extremely orange motorbike. This thing, it's a crime against nature. Who in their right mind gets an orange motorbike? Where did you even get this thing? Hey, I think it's a great bike, and it's mine. Thank you very much. I've had this beauty for so many years. I've never seen this hideous thing in the school parking lot before. Where have you been keeping it? Well, it's from home. Philip squinted. Didn't you run away from home when you were like 12? Oh, I might have gone back home and borrowed this from my butler. Borrowed. Okay, maybe snuck it out of the garage while he wasn't looking would be a more accurate term. Don't look at me like that. I'll give it back after tonight. This was supposed to be a birthday present from before I left, anyway. What kind of idiot gives a motorcycle to a 12-year-old? Owen scratched his head sheepishly. Okay, so I was a bit spoiled, but you can't deny this thing's gonna be useful tonight. What else are we gonna do? Take a cab all the way out here? Getting back home would be a bit of an issue. Aren't you rich? You could have rented a normal car instead of forcing me to ride this abomination. Hey, you're the one who offered to come with me tonight. Philip let out a sigh and shook his head. Yeah, I guess I did. He turned toward the dark, abandoned warehouse looming across the parking lot. So, this is the designated meeting place? Yeah. Those two debt collectors from my family should be here. It was a pain arranging this meeting. I had to use one of those encrypted anonymous messengers that auto-delete my texts after a set time. They take security pretty seriously, I guess. Yeah, only the most serious crime families use fucking Snapchat. Owen sighed. He began fumbling with the trunk of his hideous orange motorcycle and pulled out a small briefcase. So, the plan. Just gotta meet with my family's henchmen and pay off Sissel's boss's debts in cash. Sounds simple enough, right? Philip's hand hovered over his shoulder bag as he cautiously scanned the surroundings. These kinds of things never go as planned. Keep your guard up. You know, you don't have to come with me. Don't be stupid. I'm not letting you meet your murder-happy relatives by yourself. I do care. Sometimes. Yeah, but this is my family's problems. Philip shot Owen a sharp look. You're not the only one who's been wronged by the Loreleys. Not to mention, You and I are finally starting to get along. It'd be a shame if you kicked the bucket tonight. I don't want to deal with a replacement roommate. Huh? Wow, you almost sounded like you enjoy having me around. Don't put words in my mouth. Anyway, enough yapping. Lead the way. Owen blinked and flashed Philip a sheepish smile. Well, if you insist, let's go. Good. Everyone's involved and trying to do completely different fucking things all at once. Oh, man. It's gonna be a clusterfuck finale, ain't it? The warehouse's interior flickered in the dim glow of poorly maintained fluorescent lights on the high ceiling. Owen could hear their footsteps echo throughout the mostly empty space as they made their way inside. He stuck close to Philip as he nervously scanned the dark corners of the building. Despite his small, unintimidating frame, Owen was glad that Philip decided to tag along. Things felt safer with him by his side. A slight movement in the shadows caught his eye. Owen gulped as he turned toward two tall figures across the large room. There they were. He felt Philip elbow him, his eyes narrowing at the figures' belts. They're armed. Yeah, I can see that. His palms felt sweaty against the handle of his briefcase as he and Philip approached. The thin, shrewd-looking thug let out a surprised murmur. So, you're the anonymous contact that messaged us. The son of Oleander Lorelei in the flesh. You're the last person I expected to request a meeting. The larger of the two thugs laughed and cracked his knuckles. So this is the boss's kid. I've been itching to finally meet you. Can't say the same myself. Oh, why the cold shoulder? We're family after all. The burly thug turned his gaze towards Philip with a confused frown. And who's this little fella? Hope he's not supposed to be your bodyguard or something. I could probably snap him in half with one hand. Though in shock, Philip almost looked mildly amused. You're welcome to try. The shrewd thug cleared his throat loudly. Now, settle down. This is supposed to be a cordial meeting. Let's hear what they have to say. Owen stiffened as the man gave him an appraising look. Although, I must remind you that the only reason the Lorelei family has ceased hostilities against you, Owen, is due to your father's orders. With one condition. You are not to interfere with the family's business under any circumstances. He studied Owen closely. Contacting us directly is already skirting the line. I'm interested in why you would risk such a thing. Hey now, I'm not planning to interfere with anything. In fact, I'm here to take a problem off your hands. Oh? Owen swallowed and prayed his nervousness didn't show in his voice. I'm talking about that baker that you've been trying to collect money from, Herschel, right? Thing is, I've got a soft spot for the guy. Loves little cakes and pastries. It'd be a shame to see him go under. So, I've decided to pay off the entirety of his debts out of the goodness of my heart. You guys will get your money and have one less person to fuss over, and I'll get to keep dining at my favorite cafe. Sounds like a win-win offer, all things considered. Owen held out a small briefcase to the two Lorelei men. As a show of goodwill, here's a bit of the initial payment in cash. What do you say? The two men exchanged surprised looks. After a brief moment, they both burst out into a bout of hysterical laughter. Young man, the Lorelei family is not so desperate that we need to milk funds from a struggling banker. This was never about the money. What do you mean? Why would you threaten his family and hound him for years if money was never the issue? You are truly ignorant of the family's work, aren't you? Were you expecting to swoop in and save your friend like a helpful little philanthropist? Owen spluttered and struggled to think of words to say. Felt Philip place a steadying hand on his arm, his gaze pointed sharply at the shrewd debt collector. I don't see why you'd say no to free money. The shrewd thug smiled venomously. The Lorelei family is in no shortage of funds. We have an entirely separate issue. And what would that be? The debt collector sighed and scratched his chin thoughtfully. This was before your time, but the Lorelei's were once the most feared and respected family in the city. The power and influence we had, those were the days. His eyes narrowed into displeased slits. And then things changed when your father, Oleander Lorelei, took the reins of the head of the family. That man is far too soft, weak-willed, spineless. As the years went on, our little business partners began to grow more complacent. They did the haggle during deals, and debtors grew less worried when we knocked on their doors. In every instance, your father, Oleander, turned a blind eye. Suffice to say, certain members of the family began to find his methods disagreeable. A cruel smile spread across the man's face. I think the city could use a reminder of who they're dealing with. And nothing leaves quite as strong an impression like a dead body, don't you think? You'd kill someone just for this? The larger thug's burly shoulders shook with laughter as he cracked his knuckles again. It's been a while since I last hit. I'm getting a bit rusty. Your little baker friend will probably go slowly, painfully. I bet that'll send a strong message to our business partners. You can't! What about Oleander? Didn't you say that my dad disapproves of this kind of thing? There's no way he'd allow this. Not sure if you noticed, kid, but a good portion of the family doesn't really like your old man. With a push here and a shove there, the Lorelei's might be under new management soon. The burly thug winced as his partner elbowed him sharply in the ribs. Always running that mouth, Ace. The thinner man let out a sigh. Needless to say, I'm afraid we'll have to turn down your offer to pay off your favorite baker's loans, Owen Lorelei. Owen's grip on his suitcase tightened and his mind racing with panic. I don't suppose your folks would be open to a friendly bribe? The shrewd thug sneered. Your inexperience is showing, Owen Lorelei. You're supposed to negotiate from a position of power. And yes, we'd love to take a bribe from you. A payment to keep us silent about a little meeting here today. Excuse me? The shrewd thug eyed the briefcase in Owen's hand with a cruel smirk. The family will not be happy to hear that you've reached out for for a meeting to meddle in our affairs. It arguably violates the terms that your father laid out for your safety. You wouldn't want the unsavory members of the family coming for your head now, would you? Owen gritted his teeth as he watched the thug's sneer grow wider. But I am feeling rather generous today. I'm sure you can convince me to stay quiet somehow. The larger thug grinned and took a step forward, his massive bulk towering over him in an intimidating display. He gritted his teeth. There didn't seem to be any other option for him here. With a glare, Owen hesitantly handed his briefcase of cash over to the larger man. Thank you for your business, Owen Lorelei. We trust that you'll stay in line, if you know what's good for you. I'm not letting you two get away with this. Owen felt Philip grasp his arm, silencing him urgently. Don't do or say anything rash. We don't want your entire family to come after us. But we accomplished nothing. I know, but these two are just itching for an excuse to go on the aggressive. Don't give them the chance. There's nothing else we can do here right now, so let's back down and gather our thoughts. We need to make good decisions instead of letting our frustrations get the better of us. Sound good?
Owen sucked in a deep breath and let out a bitter sigh.
Right.
With that, they swiftly retreated from the abandoned warehouse while ignoring the smug grins across both thugs' faces. Well, shit. I've seen parking lots like this. Ugh, hate them. As soon as they stepped out of the warehouse, Owen let out a frustrated holler and kicked over a nearby trash can.
That was an absolute waste of time! We got nowhere closer to fixing this whole mess!
Philip shot him a sympathetic look.
Relax. This isn't the type of thing we can solve alone in one night. I know. It's just... Sissel's a good friend. Knowing my family is threatening people he cares about just really rubs me the wrong way.
He sighed and plopped down on the sidewalk.
I knew this probably wouldn't go well, but I didn't expect to make no progress tonight.
Well, it wasn't entirely useless. It seemed not everyone in the Lorelei family is on board with their old murderous methods. It sounds like your father's trying to steer the family into a more respectable direction. Maybe if we contact the right people to play our cards right, we could prevent Sissel's boss from coming to harm.
Easier said than done.
He heard Philip mumble something under his breath as he pulled out his phone and began dialing numbers. Owen sat up and glanced over his shoulder.
Who you calling?
Philip shot Owen a sly grin. Believe it or not, the Black Cat has a few friends in his back pocket for these kinds of situations. One of those for fuck's sake. Not good. One of those friends happens to be an informant, a criminal informant. He trades secrets among the seedier parts of the city, and he's got a special interest in the Lorelei family. And he owes me a few favors. I'm sure he can give us a hand. Owen raised an eyebrow curiously.
What did you do for this guy to get these kinds of favors?
Philip shrugged. I broke him out of jail when I was younger.
What? How did that happen?
Bad luck, for the most part. Don't worry about it.
The point is, I think he can help us out of this mess.
Philip paused. He peered up at Owen, staring slowly at the thick anxieties painted across his face. His eyes softened and he gently placed a reassuring hand on Owen's arm.
We'll figure this out. You can count on it. Yeah, thanks, Philip.
The night chill bit at their thin clothes as the two of them settled down at the spot where Owen parked his eyesore of a motorcycle. Philip continued poking at his phone as he tried to call his informant friend, but was met with little success. Owen watched as he swore under his breath while trying a dozen other numbers.
Is your friend usually this hard to reach? He's got like 1 million different phone numbers and tosses half of them every other week. Oh, shit, what's the point of being an informant if nobody can reach him?
As Philip struggled through another round of dial tones, a soft light in the distance caught Owen's eye. He glanced up, confused. Staring out across the parking lot, he noticed the shining headlights of a vehicle approaching through the night.
A taxi? Who the hell takes a taxi out here at this time of night? They'll definitely have a hard time getting home.
The car slowed to a stop in the warehouse parking lot. A familiar figure climbed out. Owen's eyes grew to the size of dinner plates as he seized Philip by the shoulder.
Hey, isn't that...
Philip glanced up and frowned, following his gaze. It was hard to make out in the distance, but the silhouetted figure with his wide frame and head bandana was undoubtedly Sissel's boss. They watched as he grabbed a large backpack from the taxi and waved the driver goodbye.
He's coming this way! Hide! We're just below the screen.
Fucking, oh, they found us. Owen and Philip immediately scrambled to shove his aggressively eye-catching orange motorcycle out of sight behind a row of bushes. They dove underneath the shrubbery just as Sissel's boss rushed by, oblivious to the presence somehow, and made a mad dash towards the dark warehouse.
That was definitely Sissel's boss. What is he doing here?
I doubt it's anything good. The two of them exchanged perplexed looks before quietly following the man. Not good. Not good. They lost sight of Sissel's boss as he rushed into the dimly lit warehouse. Following him inside was too risky to be spotted in an instant in the large empty building. Philip grabbed Owen's arm and yanked him out towards the back of the building, where they thankfully found an open window with a decent view inside. The two Lorelei thugs were still loitering in the back of the building as Sissel's boss cautiously approached them.
I thought it was weird that they didn't leave immediately after we did. So they had another meeting arranged?
Philip glared through the dim lights of the warehouse as he continued dialing desperately into his phone.
Shush. Can you hear what they're saying?
Thankfully, the voices of the people inside echoed throughout the warehouse loud and clear. There was a defeated look on Sissel's boss's face as he threw down his stuffed backpack at the thug's feet. Damn, he got fucked up. All right. I brought all the money I could muster up on short notice in cash. The shrewd thug glanced over the backpack with a raised eyebrow.
Is that all?
Herschel took a deep breath. His face was crestfallen with defeat. He hung his head low and then slowly breathed out. I know it's not enough. I know I won't be able to pay it all off by the end of the week like you asked. And I know if I don't pay, you're gonna kill me like you did to my sister. Herschel looked up, his eyes sunken and strained. After all these years, I'm tired of this cat and mouse chase. I'm tired of running from what's coming to me. So, I'm turning myself in. Herschel squeezed his eyes shut. This all has to end one way or another. And I might as well take the debt with me. A heavy silence hung in the air. The thugs exchanged curious glances. The larger thug snatched the backpack off the floor and yanked it open. A sizable amount of cash spilled over as the burly thug struggled to stuff it back inside. His shrewd partner turned back toward Herschel with an appraising look. I shall make them hunt. Even after all these years, you're still the same clueless little kid hiding behind your sister's shadow. What? What are you talking about? A cruel smirk spread across the debt collector's face. I appreciate that you're making things easier for us, but you seem to be misunderstanding something. We never said anything about ending your debts with your death. After all, your parents' debts didn't die with them. They were passed on to you. Herschel's hair bristled and dread slowly seeped down his spine. What do you mean? I don't have any family left. Not necessarily have to be a blood relative. We're not a picky bunch. What about that boy that's been living under your roof for the past few years? He'll do. The boy owes you quite a bit, as we understand. Thug's partner piped up with a grin. Isn't that kid gonna compete in that big tournament soon? If he's any good, we'd be happy to take his winnings off his hands. And if he's not... Larger man's face split into a predatory grin. Herschel froze, the reality of the situation slowly settling in, and then a furious snarl erupted from his throat. He lunged for the debt collector, but his larger partner swung a fist and knocked him onto the concrete floor. Herschel winced from the throbbing pain across his cheek as he tried to pick himself up. Don't you dare touch him. I cannot yell this. You're not much of a position to be making demands. This wasn't the deal. I swear to God, if you lay a single hand on the kid. The burly thug landed a heavy kick to Herschel's stomach, sending him rolling across the cold floor and knocking the wind out of him. As he rasped and coughed, struggled to regain his breath, he felt the larger man plant the crushing foot firmly on his chest. There was a metallic glint out of the corner of his eye. The thug had pulled out a dark, gleaming pistol from his holster. Perhaps I should make myself more clear to you, Herschel McDermott. We do not make deals with dead men. Panic pounded frantically through Owen's chest as he watched the events unfold from the warehouse window. They had to do something, but rushing in without a plan was just a death wish. He felt utterly helpless, his knuckles white against the windowsill as he watched with anxious dread. Beside him, Philip was frantically swearing into his phone. There was a sudden beep as someone picked up. Fucking finally! There was an urgent exchange of whispers over the phone. Philip looked furious as he muttered the warehouse's address and something along the lines of "Get your ass over here right now" before hanging up. Owen watched as he stuffed his phone back into his pocket before hurriedly rummaging through his shoulder bag. Owen, go start your motorcycle and get ready to haul your ass out of here. What do you mean? Do we have a plan? Sort of. I'm going in there, grabbing Sissel's boss, and then we're gonna get out as fast as your bike can take us. What? How do you expect to do that? There are 2 armed men in there, not to mention... Owen paused. Philip, my bike won't fit 3 people. He didn't get a response. Philip yanked out a familiar black jacket out of his bag and frantically patted down his pants. Owen, do you have some quarters on you? Owen didn't hesitate to fish a handful of change out of his pockets. Philip plucked a quarter and flipped a coin into the air. The quarter flipped so high into the night sky that it disappeared from view. Several seconds passed, but Owen didn't hear the metallic clink of the coin falling back down to earth. Right, looks like we're ready. He turned towards Owen with a determined look as he dug a sleek black mask out of his bag. Owen, I'll stay here to buy you guys some time. When Sissel's boss comes out of the warehouse, grab him and get out of here as quickly as you can. My informant Fred should be on his way here with some help, and he can take you somewhere safe. No! Absolutely not! I'm not leaving you here! This is no time to argue! You can come back for me later, but first and foremost, you have to get Sissel's boss to safety. Philip, I'm not gonna let you die in there. Philip's face softened for a moment before sharpening to a steadfast glare. Don't worry. I won't. Go to your bike. Get ready. He took a few steps towards the warehouse before sparing Owen one final look. A sudden biting cold swept through the air, and Owen could feel the chill crawl down his spine. It's cool seeing the other people use their wishes, because, that's the difficulty with a first-person narrative. You don't always get to see the wider world impacted by the same crazy shit that you get to see. There's no need to worry about me, Owen. I'll be fine. Woof, look at him. Jesus, cannoli. Oh! Oh, man. Herschel could feel his heart pounding through his skull as he stared up at the burly thug towering above him. The larger man was grinning as he dug his heels deeper into his chest, his ribs groaning in protest. Still got some fight in you, huh? Oh, I'm gonna have fun with this one. Herschel feebly grabbed at the foot planted square on his chest, but it wouldn't budge. He had to get out of here and warn Sissel. He was supposed to keep him safe. That was the whole point of this mess, and he couldn't even manage that. A sudden chill washed over the warehouse interior. Herschel could feel his hair. Herschel could feel his hair. For some reason, I feel like I'm, speech impedimenting all over it. Stand on end. Feel his hair stand on end as a strange anxiety pulled up inside him. The Lorelei thugs seemed to feel it too. They exchanged nervous looks as they glanced around the building.
Do you feel that, bro?
Just a night chill, nothing more. What are you getting so worked up for? Sharp crack! It must have been very loud. It was with a large text. Pierced the air as the fluorescent lights of the warehouse shattered one by one, plunging the building into darkness. There was a metallic click as the two debt collectors huddled together with pistols drawn. Their only source of light was the dim glow of the moon pooling in from the windows. It was almost impossible to see anything against the shadows of the warehouse.
Who there? Who's there? Who there? Who?
The thug's voice echoed through the empty building with no answer.
Whoever you are, you've got quite the nerve to mess with the Lorelei family.
Messel.
Do you have any idea who you're dealing with?
The harsh clatter of chains suddenly reverberated through the room. A larger thug let out a yell, and Herschel felt his weight from atop him shift as the man was knocked onto his back. Herschel immediately scrambled onto his feet and attempted to make a break for it, but the thunderous screech of gunshots abruptly filled the air. He ducked and covered his head, but thankfully it seemed the thug's aggression was aimed elsewhere. They were shouting frantically into the dark as some unknown assailant, too distracted to pay him any mind. Herschel could just barely make out a slim figure darting about in the shadows between the thugs as they fired blindly into the night. In the chaos, he felt something long, cold, and metallic suddenly wrap around his midsection and drag him across the floor toward the building's entrance. He yelped and flailed blindly against the chains as they pulled him further and further away from the brazen gunshots and shouting inside the warehouse. The streetlights were almost blinding as Herschel tumbled onto the cold pavement of the parking lot. He blinked and patted down his midsection in confusion. Whatever thing that dragged him outside had disappeared.
What in the world was that?
He yelped as a sturdy arm grabbed him and pulled him up onto his feet.
Oh, god damn, he actually did it. You're Herschel, right? Sissel's boss?
A tall young man glared down at him from atop an extremely bright orange motorcycle.
Hurry up and climb on. They'll be chasing after us in a second.
Wait a second, you're that old fella. What are you doing here? I don't even know. What are you doing here?
Is this really the time to ask that sort of thing? Do you want to get out of here or not?
But your friend, someone came in to rescue me and they're still in there. They both turned back towards the dark building behind them, still thick with shouting and piercing gunshots. Owen hesitated for a moment and looked as though he was fighting the urge to run into the warehouse himself.
He'll be fine. He risked his life to get you to safety, and he trusted me to get you out of here.
Herschel felt a wave of guilt gnaw the inside of his chest.
You kids, you shouldn't be risking your lives for someone like me. This is my problem.
Oh, don't start with that! Sissel's our friend, and he's gonna completely lose it if he finds out that you died for such a dumb reason!
Sissel sped it off without me.
Herschel's words were cut off as Owen shot him an intense glare. That's not your decision to make! You honestly think he'd be better off mourning his family for the rest of his days? Do you have any idea what that feels like?
Herschel was stunned. Get on the fucking bike.
They both jumped as another gunshot ran out, this time much closer than before. They turned to see the shrewd thug sprinting out of the warehouse breathlessly, his gun raised and a murderous glint in his eye.
Nobody weasels their way out from the Lorelei family's dealings. You're gonna regret the day you were born. I shall make them.
Herschel didn't need to be told twice. Or 5 times, as actually happened. He hastily crawled onto Owen's motorbike and they shot out of the parking lot and out of sight. Whoosh. The motorbike hurtled down the narrow road like a speeding bullet. The path ran precariously along the edge of Bradley Lake, and as much as Owen wanted to throttle the gas further, he had to take care and avoid careening off the road into the dark water below. This game has an echo, but it is not Echo. He could feel Herschel grip his shoulders tightly as the man peered back at the warehouse retreating in the distance. Your friend, is he gonna be alright? Owen gritted his teeth and forced himself to focus on the road.
Philip's a tough guy. I'm sure he'll be fine.
After he dropped Herschel off somewhere safe, he'll come back and find Philip. And then he's going to yell at him so hard about how stupid this plan was, and that his voice will turn hoarse. He'll be back. A loud rumble of fuck! A loud rumble of a car engine abruptly pulled Owen out of his thoughts. Suddenly they were enveloped by the sharp glare of headlights beaming them from behind. Owen glanced back into the building light and could just barely make out the silhouette of the shrewd thug scowling furiously through the windshield of his sleek black car. More gunshots cut through the night air. Owen swore loudly and veered the motorcycle left and right in an attempt to become a more evasive target. He felt Herschel's grip on his shoulders tighten as they both struggled to stay upright.
Hold! Is he really chasing after us like this? How are we supposed to escape?
Behind them, the thug was leaning out of the window of his car with his gun trained directly at them. Even through the blinding headlights, Owen could see the man's bloodthirsty grin as he tried to shoot them off their unprotected motorbike again and again. They're like sitting ducks. Maybe Philip was right. He really should have just rented a car tonight. Another bullet pierced the air, just narrowly missed Owen's ear. He swung under his breath and swerved the bike in more erratic maneuvers. How are they going to get out of this one? It was only a matter of time before they got hit. In the rearview mirror, he saw the thug once again carefully take aim. And something. Before he could line up the shot, another pair of blinding headlights flooded their vision. This time it was coming from the front. Another car at this time of night? But it was enough. The bright flash threw off the pursuer's aim, and thankfully the bullet sailed far above its intended target. Owen squinted through the sharp light as he struggled to stay on the road. There was an oncoming rusty old truck approaching them in the distance. The thing looked absolutely ancient and held together with duct tape and a dream. Was just another person on the road, or someone working for the Loreleys? It's hard to believe someone would be in this area of town this time of night. As they got closer, Herschel suddenly piped up.
Hey, heading that night truck?
Time seemed to slow as they craned their necks to look into the oncoming truck as they passed by. I don't know that this song is the most appropriate one, but I guess it is an emotion to convey.
Wait a sec. Sissel! The fuck?
Glanced over at Sissel's shoulder from the passenger seat as an ugly orange motorbike. This motorbike is getting all the shit. An ugly orange motorbike whizzed past us, my brain hardly comprehending what we just saw. We'd followed Morse's instructions and borrowed Herschel's dinky old truck to the location he sent us, but I didn't expect to run into trouble before even arriving. If my eyes aren't playing tricks on me, that was Owen and Herschel, right?
I think so. Can't imagine anyone else willing to ride a bike that looks like that.
The two of us jumped as gunshots ripped through the night sky. Ahead, we saw a sleek black car barreling down the opposite lane with reckless speed. Luckily, Herschel's fossil of a truck was busted with its high beams permanently turned on. We made ourselves public enemies of the city during our ride here and managed to glimpse the driver's face. Hey, isn't that the debt collector with the dumb hat from this morning?
He's got a gun. I can't believe Boss actually came here tonight to... That fucking twat.
Sissel swore loudly and slammed on the brakes. After fumbling with the stick shift controls for a moment, he veered the truck to make a U-turn and began chasing after the two fleeing vehicles. I gripped the edge of my seat nervously as our truck's pathetic engine groaned at the speed that Sissel was forcing it to reach. Thankfully, this road was rather narrow, with long winding turns as it traced Bradley Lake's perimeter. Is that the only lake in this whole fucking area? Boston has a lot of water. The two cars ahead of us couldn't have gone too fast, even if they wanted to. Sissel managed to catch up to them in no time, and his furious glare locked onto the sleek black car with its gun-wielding driver. As we approached, Sissel let out a holler and slammed onto the gas pedal. Our rickety truck surged forward and slammed into the sleek black car, sending it swerving out of control. We could hear the debt collector shouting profanities at us as he struggled to regain control of his vehicle. Sissel took this chance to accelerate past him. He rolled down his window as we slowly built up enough speed to pull up next to Owen's still moving motorbike. "Owen, boss, what the fuck do you think you're doing?" "Hey, don't look at me like that. We just found your boss getting beat up and these debt collectors decided to grab him and leave." Sissel shot Herschel with a look of disbelief. The older rabbit shrunk back and hung his head low. "We can talk about this later. Hurry up and get in the truck. It isn't safe out here." I glanced behind us. The headlights of the debt collector's car were quickly approaching. Didn't look like stopping would be an option. Owen frowned and circled his bike around so that he and Herschel were perpendicular with the passenger door of our truck. "Open the door and take your boss into the truck." I gulped and hesitantly pushed the door open. The buffeting winds of the road immediately roared against my face. "What about you?" "I'm gonna go off-road and back to that warehouse. Philip is still back there and I'm not leaving him behind." "Philip's here too?" We were interrupted by yet another gunshot, stray bullet bouncing off the truck's rusty metal. Seemed the time for chatter was over. Thank fuck this guy wasn't a very good shot, I thought to myself as I struggled to keep the door open. You know, for a crime family, someone would... whatever, fuck it. Owen nodded and pulled his motorbike as close to the passenger door as he could manage while we all continued hurtling down the road at a high speed. Herschel gulped nervously as he leaned forward from his seat on the back of the motorbike, arms outstretched as he prepared to jump. I could feel Sissel's gaze over my shoulder as he anxiously tried to keep the truck steady. "Dude, be careful! Get a little bit closer before you..." Another bullet sliced through the air, this time cracking the glass of the door. Herschel let out a yelp and made an unsteady leap forward. He managed to grab onto my outstretched hand as he threw himself as hard as he could over the gap, but didn't quite make it. The world slowed to a halt as I watched Herschel begin to slip down towards the rough blur of the pavement below. Somewhere behind me, I could hear Sissel let out an anguished shout that cut deep in my chest. No, that wouldn't do. Thinking quickly, maybe without thinking at all, I seized Herschel's arm and yanked as hard as I could. Threw my entire body weight into it as I pulled him into the truck. Herschel landed onto the passenger seat with a thud while I fell forward and tumbled out the open door. For a moment, the world was a blur, and I thought I was going to face-plant into the cutting pavement below. Owen's arm shot forward and grabbed me by the collar of my shirt. I could barely breathe as I clung onto him as hard as I could. He was yelling something as he struggled to keep his grip on me while his motorbike veered dangerously off-center. Owen was forced to slow down to regain his balance. I watched as the truck continued barreling down the road without us. "John!" Sissel's panicked shout faded into the distance as the truck disappeared into the night, with a murderous black car following closely behind. Sissel's knuckles had turned white from how tightly he was gripping the steering wheel. Beside him, Herschel was panting loudly as he struggled to slam the passenger door shut. "I think I saw your friend grab John before he hit the ground. That collector ignored them and kept chasing after us. He should be okay." Sissel let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. It was one less thing to worry about at the very least. Now that was just everything else. Glared at Herschel, the storm of emotion that had welled up inside him at the entire day suddenly spilling out. "Did you really plan to turn yourself into those murderers tonight? What were you thinking? Oh, look who's talking. You kids shouldn't even be here.
Was worried about you, you fucking twat! You have any idea how scared I was when I went back to the cafe and saw that you took all the cash out of the place? I have no idea why Owen was here tonight, but thank God he was, because I'm pretty sure you'd be dead otherwise. I was doing what's right. It's what I should have done a long time ago. The last thing I wanted to do was pull you into my mess. All too fucking bad. I'm here now. You're not getting rid of me that easily. And I'm not gonna let you off yourself with something stupid right after I find out that we're related. A torn and weary look filled Herschel's face as he hung his head low. Honestly, sis, you're better off without me. The whole truck shook suddenly. They both whipped around to see the thug's car ramming them from behind. Either he had given up trying to shoot them through the truck, or he'd run out of bullets. They could see the shrewd thug glaring at them from his windshield as he slammed on the gas once more. The rusty truck's frame rattled and groaned from the impact. Sissel frantically scrambled to maintain control of the wheel as the thug's car continued shoving them from behind on this narrow road. He's trying to push us into the lake, Sissel thought, right before an ear-splitting metallic crash ripped through the truck. He had fully lost control of the truck and had barreled through the railing of the narrow road and over a sheer cliff overhanging the lake below? Are you serious? Sissel's breath hitched with nausea as their entire world tipped at an angle. Oh, for God's sake! Almost in slow motion, the truck fell forward and plunged straight into the cold black water of Bradley Lake. The trunk sank like a rock and rapidly disappeared under the water's surface. On the road above him, the shrewd thug climbed out of his black car and scanned the scene warily, gun at the ready. He watched as a torrent of air bubbles boiled the water's surface while the truck plunged ever deeper. His finger was wrapped tightly around his gun's trigger as he scanned over the lake. If they were still alive, he would make sure to finish him off. The family would not be happy with him if he left any loose ends. He stood over the lake for what felt like an eternity until the air bubbles slowly pittered out and the surface was calm once more. The water was black as ink, and it was impossible to see anything within those depths. However, if anyone attempted to surface from the lake, he would fucking damn it! He would spot them in an instant. He waited for at least another 10 minutes, far longer than anyone would survive without a breath of fresh air, but still nothing. Satisfied, the thug holstered his pistol and began making his way back to his car. This night turned into a goddamn mess. He let out a sigh and drove off. Far below, the world disappeared for Sissel as soon as they hit the water. In the dim glow of the truck's interior lights, he could see the windows were littered with cracks and tidy waterfalls pouring inside. There was a hint of light from outside the truck. The world was just an endless span of black as the truck continued to sink further into the depths. Sissel's head was throbbing, and something wet and warm was trickling down his forehead. He must have hit his head on something during the impact. Everything felt groggy as he tried to undo his seatbelt and push against the doors. They wouldn't budge an inch. The water pressure was trapping them inside. My head. Sissel blinked through the days and tried to take in his surroundings. Beside him, Herschel was frantically bashing against the glass and searched for a way out, but no luck. He tried rolling down the windows, but it looked like it had stopped functioning. They were stuck here. Sissel shivered as he felt the water inside the truck slowly pool up to his knees. Well, fuck. Boss, you alright? Herschel gave the window another futile bash before sinking into his seat, dread overtaking him. I'm fantastic. Everything's just great! You don't sound very fantastic. Of course I'm not!
Herschel hung his head low.
Everything I've done, it's all been for nothing. Nothing I've ever done was worth a damn. I only managed to make things worse. I just wanted to at least leave you out of all the problems I've caused, but I can't even do that.
I told you already, I'm not letting you do anything stupid, boss.
Sissel stared up at him softly.
We're family, right? I know things have been kind of a mess, but I still care about you.
I don't deserve it. I don't deserve it from you, and God knows I didn't deserve it from your mother.
Herschel let out a raspy sob and buried his face in his hands.
I killed your mother.
Sissel glared at him sharply.
No, you didn't. The crazy guy with the dumb hat and his big goon were the ones who killed my mom, not you.
I stole the money from Cecilia when I knew she needed it to pay her debts.
You stole it because you thought you could solve all her problems with the competition winnings. It was a stupid move, but we've all fucked up before. Big deal. Stop blaming yourself and focus on surviving, all right?
Herschel didn't seem to hear him. The old man was busy rubbing his eyes through ragged breaths, his face already raw with tears.
You two would have been better off without me. If I weren't here, your mother would have had such an easier life. And you wouldn't have had to suffer such a horrible childhood. If only I weren't here.
Bam! Smack-a-doo! Damn!
CG goes hard as fuck.
Sissel slammed on the glass so hard it let out an ear-piercing crack. Don't do it with your palms, man. More water began rushing in as he shot Herschel a furious, grief-stricken glare.
Never say something like that again. Never. Don't run away.
He paused, struggling to catch his breath.
I get it. Sometimes you just feel like you're not worth a damn. And every time someone tries to help you, you feel like a goddamn leech. I get it. It's hard. But please promise me you'll never run away.
Sissel stared up at Herschel wistfully.
No matter how hard it gets, there are people who want you to be happy. And despite that little voice inside your head telling you that they're better off spending their time on someone else, they chose to spend it with you. Isn't that a good thing? That even if we can't see it, something about us makes other people happy? I think we owe it to them to stay and face all the hard times together.
Oh, it's around his neck. Jesus.
Sis, I don't deserve any of it.
It isn't about deserving. Caring isn't some big debt waiting to be collected, boss. You don't need to offer something extraordinary for people to care about you. Mom cared. I care. And I think my world would be better with you in it.
Sissel felt his vision grow hazy. His head was throbbing with pain. He fell backward onto his seat, clutching his forehead. His voice slowed to an unfocused mumble.
Did you really think I'd be happier with you dead? I just learned that I still have a family. Don't leave me alone again.
Sissel.
The world went black as Sissel slowly fell unconscious. Herschel was stunned silent for several long moments, because that's exactly what we have an abundance of right now. He shook his head furiously.
What was he doing? There was no time to mope. He had to focus on getting Sissel out of here.
The water was already reaching up to their necks. Mentally kicking himself for letting things get this far, Herschel took a deep breath and ducked underneath the water. By this point, the water had filled up most of the truck. He struggled to hold Sissel's head afloat with one hand while the other fumbled blindly underwater for something useful. The stick shift? That would work. There. He had kept a small snow shovel in the back seat for rough winters. With some effort, Herschel struggled to bash the cracked windows repeatedly underwater. Does that count as a they said it moment? I don't know. He quickly grew dizzy and had to resurface for another breath of air. Diving back down, he tried again. Thankfully, this time, he succeeded. The window finally shattered and more water gushed inside along with shards of broken glass. Herschel took one last deep breath of air before clutching Sissel tightly and carefully swimming out into the open lake. Herschel could feel the remaining glass cut into his sides as he cradled Sissel's unconscious body protectively out the window. The truck had sank very deep into the lake. He could barely make out the lights of the street lamps far above. The water was freezing, and he could feel his muscles grow stiff as he paddled desperately toward the surface. He had to get Sissel out of here. They both had to get out of here. He still needed to apologize, and he couldn't face Cecilia like this. Herschel could feel his lungs burn as he struggled his way toward the surface with Sissel in tow. But it was so far away. He had to make it. He had to. Herschel hacked violently against the blackness as a rush of water suddenly entered his windpipe. He flailed desperately against the current, but to no avail. The world was fading quickly. With the last of his strength, he shoved Sissel so hard as he could toward the surface.
Sissel,
His last breath spent, everything soon faded. Oh, God. Fuck. Herschel. You've come so far since the day we fled our parents' home. And you've gone further still, even after I passed. This is all I've ever wanted. For the two of us to build a happy life outside of our parents' shadow. And I hope you will go even farther without bearing the weight of guilt on your shoulders. I'm gone. You don't need to carry me any longer. I've never once blamed you, never once regretted having you in my life. You will always be my dear little brother. I waded into the icy black water of Bradley Lake, the cold cutting through my skin like a knife. Thrashing against the waves, I grabbed the unmoving mass floating on the lake's surface and dragged it back to shore. The mass was two people, heavy and still. Dread crawled up my spine as I struggled to heave them both onto dry land. Suddenly, rasps and coughs filled the air as two prone bodies struggled to refill their lungs with air. Relief washed over me as I collapsed next to them. Sissel, Herschel, are you two all right? They were both coughing up a storm, but thankfully still alive. Sissel had a nasty, bloody bruise on his forehead, and Herschel's sides were cut up and slowly bleeding, probably from the glass of the car below. Herschel sat up, shivering and spluttering, eyes half-lidded in an oxygen-deprived haze.
Cecilia.
Huh?
Oh, we made it. Sissel, is Sissel okay?
Yes, he seems okay, just catching his breath. Looks like he got hit over the head. Looks like he got hit over the head pretty hard. It'll be a while before he wakes up. I turned towards Sissel, all the stress from the last several hours suddenly spilling out. I'm so damn worried you two were under the water for so long. It's a miracle you made it out alive. I have no idea what I would have done if you two didn't come back. Herschel was shivering against the frigid night air as he checked over Sissel's prone body. Satisfied for the time being, he glanced up.
What about those thugs that was chasing us? Where are they now?
The one that was shooting at us during the car chase left after you two fell in the water. I think he just assumed you two drowned. Owen said that thug was probably returning to the warehouse at the top of the hill where his buddy and Philip were fighting it out. I glanced down the road worriedly. Owen, he dropped me off here and then sped off to rescue Philip. I hope they're doing okay. Speak of the devil, the two of us jumped at the sound of an approaching motorcycle. I popped my head out from the bushes we were hiding behind to see Owen riding slowly down the road with Philip hanging limply in the seat next to him. I waved them down anxiously. Owen smiled and gave his passenger a gentle nudge.
Hey, we're here.
Philip lifted his head up tiredly. His black cat jacket was wrapped tightly around his left shoulder, dripping with what seemed with something dark and wet. I rushed over to their side, a lump growing in my throat. Is everything okay? Oh, I'm just dandy, thanks. My shoulder's not as bad as it looks. Just got grazed a little. I'd feel less embarrassed if I wasn't an idiot and twisted my ankle on the way out. Glancing down, I could see Philip's ankle hanging limply against the side of the motorcycle. It had a nasty purplish hue, and it swelled up to like an oversized thumb.
Don't try to play it cool. You're a fucking mess. Hurry up and get better so I can yell at you properly for pulling suicidal stunts.
Says the guy who decided to negotiate with a mob family.
But you agreed to come with me.
Oh, yeah, it wouldn't...
Well, yeah, it would have been dumber to let you go alone.
Philip turned toward me curiously. I'm surprised that Owen ran into you and Sissel on his way out. What brought you guys up here? Oh, it's a long story. We're afraid Sissel's boss might do something dangerous, so we ended up calling this informant who knows stuff about crimes and whatnot. He told us to hurry here tonight.
An informant? Morse? Oh, so he can pick up his damn phone.
Herschel limped out from behind the bush and approached us warily.
Not to interrupt your little chat, but shouldn't we be worried about those thugs coming back?
Owen flashed him a mischievous grin.
Maybe, but they'll have trouble getting here. I managed to tail that black car without being seen. After that skinny guy got out and ran into the warehouse to help his buddy, I put his car in neutral and rolled it down a hill somewhere. It should buy us some time.
Finally, some good news. Tonight's been a shit show, but at least everyone made it out in one piece. Everyone holding up okay? Everyone let out tired mumbles and groans, except for Herschel. He stood quietly staring over each of us with a pained expression. I could see the thoughts swimming across his face as plain as day. His gaze first turned to me, nearly tumbled out of a truck going 80 miles an hour trying to drag him to safety. I drifted over to Philip's nasty wounds and swollen ankle, then to Philip, who drove him through a literal gunfight. And finally, Herschel stared down towards Sissel's shivering, unconscious body on the ground, his blood-stained forehead glistening in the moonlight.
You kids shouldn't have gone through all this for my sake.
We all exchanged stubborn looks before turning to Herschel.
I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Sissel's our friend, and what are friends for? Take better care of yourself, dude.
I placed a comforting hand on Herschel's shoulder. I felt cold to the touch, still frigid from his dip in the lake. You know, Sissel spent a whole day moping and trying to figure out how to talk to you again. He had a lot to think about. But he still cares about you. A lot. It'd be a shame if all that moping was for nothing, right? Owen and I glanced towards Philip expectantly. It was clearly his turn to say something encouraging. He just shrugged and then winced and gripped his bloodied shoulder. I don't know good words for this kind of situation.
Riveting.
Inspiring, isn't he?
Oh, I feel warm and bubbly inside.
Owen let out a yelp as Philip shoved him off the motorcycle. All right, fine. Philip peered over Herschel's slouched figure warily. Don't get shot, dumbass. People care about you. It's not a bad thing. Wow.
Philip, you're not allowed to give Philip, you're not allowed to... Fuck. Philip, you're not allowed to give encouraging speeches anymore.
What? I said what you wanted me to say.
Not like that.
If you want someone to give a good pep talk, go ask Ginny. I'm just here to make sure you don't do anything stupid. Herschel winced and hung his head low.
Sorry.
Philip stared at the older man carefully. We're not looking for an apology. Just treat yourself a little better next time, yeah? Herschel felt quiet. Looked like he wanted to say something, but just let out a deep, long sigh.
We can worry about me later. Let's get you kids out of here.
About that, your truck's at the bottom of a lake right now, and we can't all fit on Owen's gross orange bike. Owen looked a bit lost.
Well, I guess we could hide out in Bradley's woods for the night. Like a fun little camping trip?
Owen, there are murderers hunting us. I refuse to be an idiot in a bad horror movie. Not to mention, Philip and Sissel are both hurt. I think it's best we get them patched up as soon as possible.
So staying here is out of the question, huh? I could try to drive each of you back to Grania one by one, but that could take hours.
Also, I distinctly remember a scene where Owen was driving both John and Ginny on the motorbike. But granted, they're two skinny motherfuckers, especially Ginny, and maybe that's a totally different bike, and maybe I'm not remembering that at all correctly at all. So, I don't know. That's just what's been popping up in my head every time someone's like, it doesn't fit 3 people.
Not to mention, we're not even sure it's safe to go home. If those thugs see you two still alive...
We all suddenly froze at the sound of a car slowly approaching, its wheels grinding quietly against gravel. The glow of headlights gleamed across the road in our direction. Everyone ducked behind the bushes and held their breaths. To my mild relief and nervousness, it was a gray car we hadn't seen before. The vehicle was rather shabby, with dents and scratches littered across its aged surface. The car slowed to a halt near a little hiding spot, and a tall man stepped out. A pair of hawk-like eyes gleamed in the light as he approached. You left your phone GPS tracking on, kid. Please tell me you didn't break another limb. I'm not looking forward to another lengthy conversation with your mother. Philip poked his head out of the bush with a withered look. Well, maybe if someone actually picked up his phone... It's hard to go out in public as a secret person, huh? What? Dude, it's like 80 degrees outside. The man mumbled something under his scarfed face. I'm taking measures to protect my identity. You also take constructive criticism? No. Where's the rest of your little group? Moore stepped closer and caught sight of everyone squatting behind our very stealthy bush. He opened his mouth as though to say something sarcastic, but froze. His hawk-like amber eyes widened as he caught sight of Sissel's unconscious body and Philip's bloodied shoulder. You're all a mess. And thankfully, alive. I'm glad. Thanks for directing us here tonight, Morse. I don't think we would have made it otherwise. Ideally, you kids wouldn't have to deal with us at all. These aren't exactly ideal circumstances, I suppose. He cleared his throat loudly before lowering the brim of his hat to hide his already obscured face. For the new folks around here, I am Morse, criminal informant by trade. Your friend Philip is cashing in a few favors for your safety. Morse glanced back down the road. I assume the Loreley family's underlings are on the lookout for you right now. It would be rather troublesome if you were discovered. You'll not best come with me for now. I have a safe place for you to rest and recover while I help you sort this mess out. He gestured for us to follow him into his car. As Herschel and I struggled to gently carry Sissel into the back seat, Owen stared at Morse strangely.
Have we met before? You look kind of familiar. No, I don't.
Morse snapped the car door shut and revved the engine to life.
Follow me. We're heading to the robin's nest.
Is that supposed to mean something to me? I don't know. We all squeezed into Morse's beat-up car, with Owen following closely behind on his beloved eyesore of a motorbike. Exhaustion overtook us during the ride to Morse's little hideout. My eyelids were growing heavy, my limbs were sore from the night's events. By the time Morse was pulling up into that dingy, secluded corner of the city, I was already fast asleep. Morse definitely gassed them. It was like, nobody can see my hideout.